A very good evening to you all. I'm Rotaract Chamode Algamagi from the Rotaract Club of NSBM. Before introducing the speakers for today's session, I would like to introduce you to our project, Women of Change. This is a conference where we celebrate some of the most accomplished females in business in Sri Lanka and bring awareness about the issues faced by them in the corporate world. Many women tend to face gender barriers when trying to achieve top positions in organizations. Is this a matter with gender discrimination, or is it the stereotyping that keeps them away from reaching the top? We'll be specifically looking at such questions today, and we'll be discussing how these barriers can overcome. With this initiative, we are hoping to encourage and empower young females to fearlessly take up roles in the world of business without having to worry about gender bias and discrimination. Now, I would like to welcome our speakers for the day. Ms. Tilinda Silva, Dean of the Faculty of Business at NSBM, Ms. Selina Pires, the Business Development Director at Celine, Ms. Shanukidi Alvis, Consultant at Search for Common Ground, the creator and host of the talk show, and Ms. Keshavi Puswavala, HR Business Partner, Corporate Functions, Research and Development, and Employee Brand Lead at Unilever Sri Lanka, Rotarian, Yukti Gunasekara, Youth Services Director, Rotary Club of Colombo West, our moderator, Dilmi Ranavira, an analyst, compere and social media influencer, and our guest performer for today's event, Kaylee Berenger, voice contestant at The Voice Sri Lanka, Ms. Jinadi Chaturya and Ms. Daupadi Gamage, MICs of Rotaract Club of NSBM and the lecturers of NSBM. And especially, I would like to mention Chocolate, our official media sponsor for today's event. And finally, welcome all the Rotaractors and non-Rotaractors who's joining with us through Zoom and via YouTube. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the session, please feel free to type it in. Without further delay, I would like to hand over this session to Dilma Ranavira. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shamodya. So are we ready to start with the questions? Today, we are going to speak about women's empowerment under the theme of inspiring change. And do we have Miss Shanuki to start off with the first question?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, Shanuki, I would like to ask you, what progress have you seen on gender equality in your life and work?
I don't know if I've seen much progress, actually. How do you define progress? The world has certainly changed from what it used to be. And I think women are a lot more aware of their rights and of the importance of equality. But I don't know whether in terms of in Sri Lanka specifically, in terms of if you look at political progress, if you look at infrastructure development, if you look at social progress, the question remains, how much have we actually progressed systematically in the country? I think because there's more awareness, I think women with more privilege and more access to information and resources are able to create movements or push for change. But the Sri Lanka is still very much steeped in a patriarchy politically. This country benefits from a patriarchy. So I don't know whether we can say there's been tangible progress that is sort of truly life-changing, but at the same time, there have been small steps made, and I think there's a lot more lobbying, a lot more sort of vocalizing of the need for progress, of the need for gender equality out there. And at the same time, we are also becoming more and more aware as the world progresses and time progresses of more need for change than we thought that we needed. So I think as the definitions also change, the need for progress also widens and expands. So I guess in terms of women's access to education, women's access to employment, definitely there has been progress if you sort of it against maybe 50 years ago or 60 years ago. What our mothers and grandmothers were able to do is completely different from what we are able to do today. So there has been progress. There are lots more women working in what were traditionally male-dominated spaces. There are a lot more women making more noise, but in that sense, yes, there has been progress and there's been more opportunity, but legally, socially, economically, I don't know. I can't answer that question very easily to say there has been progress that I have seen.
Okay, I think that was a good explanation as the start. Moving on to Ms. Tilini, I would like to ask you, have you drawn professional inspiration from other women? Tell us about someone who has inspired you.
I think we being women, I think what is most important is for us to get inspired from each other every day, because without being judgmental about who you are and whatever you are into, I think we all as women, it's very important that every day we get inspired from each other. And I'm glad today that I'm coming to this webinar with three other incredible women and also you, Dilmi. And I think there's a lot that we can inspire from each other. I was going through their profiles and that it was amazing to see what they're doing. And yeah, it's incredible. So personally, when you take myself, I think as far as I remember, I was so inspired by the principal of my school, Mrs. Alhakon, for the charisma and the vibe she had when I was a girl and when I was, 12 years, 13 years, and 14 years. I was amused by her boldness and the braveness as a lady principal. And I always wanted to be a leader like her when I grow up. But I know she's very firm and she's very strict and disciplined. But with all that, she had this aura of being bold and brave and just make the decisions and choices and inspiring thousands of young girls. And I think when I look back at my life, she's been one of the most inspiring ladies I've seen, like apart from your mothers. I mean, everyone would say that you are inspired by mothers, but apart from her, yes. But I think other than that, when we look at the world at large, for all the women today, there's so much of awareness, and there are many women who are vocal about being bold and brave and just making the choices and looking for your happiness. And I think there are so many out there. And yeah, as I told, I'm speaking with four incredible and inspiring ladies as such.
Thank you so much, Ms. Tilni. We are glad to have you here, and we are all inspired by you as well. Seeing you every day at university, you have always taught us and have always inspired us. Thank you so much. And moving on to Ms. Selina, what is one thing you wish more people knew about women in the workplace?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. So I think if I can take the very present context, working from home, I think we are all among the privilege to be able to work from home. Not only do we have, we don't have to worry about the very, very simple things like laptops and data and a chair and a table to sit at. We have a home. I mean, I'm speaking for myself here and maybe some women who are leading positions in business. We often have help. We have, to an extent, understanding family, understanding husbands or around us. But, working from home is not easy, especially if you're a girl from a rural part of the village, not just your hardware, but also the attitudes. Why is a girl sitting at home when the mother-in-law, the mother is cooking in the kitchen? What is the meaning of this? So I think these are some very real challenges if you take the very present context of working, which is going to be very largely about working from home and outside your workplace. I think women, especially rural young girls, will find it very difficult. And I'm not just saying this, I'm experiencing this with my own workforce who are part of Celine, and we are not based in Colombo, we are based outside Colombo. So I think these are some of the, because of things like this, I feel that there will be a big dropout of women if this kind of scenario continues. And also, I think, especially for women, I think one of the main hurdles is when you have kids at home, and especially when it comes to working from home context, you know, it's quite difficult to balance that. And while, like Shanuki said, you know, indicators should be better than it was maybe 50 years ago, but I don't know by how much. And I think with the pandemic situation now, I really do believe that there's going to be a very negative impact on women accessing work and staying at work. And that's something really the private sector needs to look at, about how women can now balance staying at home with their children, with their home duties, and physically being at home. So these are some of the very real kind of present day challenges that I think women will face, are facing, actually.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And the next question is going out to Shanti again. Why do we need more women in leadership?
Why? It's strange that that should be even a question, right? Okay, let's take Sri Lanka. 52% of the population is female. And if you have more than half of your population of one particular gender, shouldn't it be that the country's economy should also be contributed to equally by that gender? And if you take what is leadership, I mean, the traditional, again, the stereotypical definition of what leadership has changed over time. When you take employees, when you take, for instance, I'm a mental health advocate. So you take the world's understanding and progression on things like the mental health of employees. We know statistically that women in leadership roles are able to give more to their employees than males in that role, because women are naturally nurturers and carers and more empathetic. And in the past, in leadership positions, they looked at that as a weakness, that women are too empathetic or too emotional, as they put it. But now we find in the global industrial sense that this empathy or this ability to connect on an emotional level with one's employees and to look into sort of the mental health of employees and the well-being of employees in order to get more productivity out is looked at as a strength. And therefore, I'm just looking at it completely scientifically and psychologically, women are better placed to provide that in a leadership position. Also, I think we have seen and proven time and time again, women, if we're talking about women, that they have kind of overcome a lot more barriers than men do. And I'm generalizing here, but if you look at it, the kind of hurdles and the kind of speed bumps that men have to look at and the barriers that they have to face when it comes to a leadership position in a company or when it comes to actually running or managing. And then when you compare that with the number of hurdles and barriers that women have to put up with, and the fact that women leaders have time and time again proven that they can still overcome the barriers that are at least 10 times more than what a man has to face and still be able to provide leadership and visionary guidance to a company, I think that just proves a woman's capability to lead. And I think across all industries now, there are females across the world who are making waves. So why shouldn't there be female leadership?
Thank you, Shanaki. Ms. Silani, the next question for you is, what is the biggest challenge that you have faced as a woman and how did you overcome it?
Well, I think the biggest challenge the women in a patriarchal society like Sri Lanka has is the social frame that we need to work. The stereotype the women has, okay, in the heads of your mothers, in the heads of your families, in the heads of the society, okay, they are setting us in a frame. You are a woman and this is what you can do. And there are no such restrictions for men, and how unfair is that? So I think we as women, we should not put ourselves into such stereotypes or to frames, and just to think out of the box and be yourself and go out there and do whatever you feel right for yourself and to others. I think that is the challenge for us. And when sometimes we being women and when we try to be bold like that and when we are going to make our own decisions, how the society would look at us is another challenge we do have. How others would perceive, how others would judge about us. And I think women really need to come out of this. And I think as a country, we have actually come a long way. I totally agree with Shanki. Yes, there are some voices. Yes, there are certain lobbying and certain things happening, but we have a long, long way to go. I think now we here speaking today, when you take the general women in Sri Lanka, when we take us, we are a cross section of, a less than a 5% who just come out and speak like this and achieve what we have achieved, and, have the independence and boldness to make the decisions that we make today. I think it's less than a 5% or 10%. But out there in the ground level, there are a lot of women who doesn't have a voice like us, and it's a big challenge. And how a less percentage of women like us who can do something, how we get together, how we lobby and just start doing some changes. I think every woman has a responsibility to take up that challenge and just be themselves and to come out of this shell. And once all of us would come out of this shell, and I think that is when we can talk about this progression and all. But by saying that, I think when we are talking about women and the challenges that women face, I think the men has a bigger role to play as well. The men need to be secured of their women, and men need to respect women for their choices and what they want to do without being judgmental about us and stereotyping us about, okay, you are a woman and this is what you can do and you should not think out of it. And even I think even the women, there are a lot of women who are there who are just thinking about women in this shell, and then they need to just break this shell and come out. And I think that is the biggest challenge we have today.
Thank you, Ms. Tilini. Ms. Keshavi, I'd like to ask you, as a female leader, what has been the most significant barrier in your career?
So before I get into that question, what Ms. Tilini was talking about, how we get judged. Yesterday, I faced a little bit of a situation. Just would like to share. I was questioned yesterday by someone why I'm not married. So I told it's my decision. What about your? Are you managing your work life and family life? So I told there's no connection between my work life and my decision to get married. I was judged up to a certain extent because I have time to do what I want to do, just because I'm not getting married because of that. So I was just listening to Ms. Tilni and was telling how we get judged as women at a point when we do get that opportunity out there. So just an example for what you just mentioned just happened yesterday. Just felt like sharing. So the barrier, of course, to be honest, when I think of it, there can be different barriers we face throughout. It can be because of our own perception or the jobs that we have taken up or the industry that we work for, or even the organization hierarchy that doesn't allow us to go up in the ladder. It can be different choices, it can be even a lifestyle choice that we make that can be a barrier. But to be honest, when it comes to me, my barrier has been my own mindset up to a certain extent. I have, I'll tell a little bit of a story again. As a child, I have been compared a lot. So this comparison sort of since I was a kid impacted me. You are a daughter of a teacher, so because of that you should have high marks for this particular subject, and how you have 90 marks, so then I should have like 89. Or my mother's friends used to sort of compare me. My sister was one of the brightest students back then, and then everyone expected me to be at that level. So because of that, what happened to me was, up to a certain extent, I was a little bit taken aback, and I felt this, I'm being judged for whatever I'm doing. And this is since childhood, this, this was something that was built up in my mind. And I think if I have had a barrier in my life up to now, if I take two steps, I'll take one step behind, because I have a little bit of an issue in terms of confidence level of about my own self. But thankfully, recently I got a conscious call from one of my colleague at office. She came to me. She told me, Kesh, your work is great, but you know what? You have a confidence issue. One of my female colleagues, she came to me and told that. And I sat with her, and she gave me input and feedback, and I decided that I really need to work on it, because it's something that I really need to work on it. And that's when I actually sort of shortened my hair, and I wanted to feel like that I'm changing myself and accepting myself for who I am. And sometimes we need to be a little bit conscious about our barriers and take a step forward. It might be you yourself that is a barrier for your own growth, might not be everyone around you. So just be a little bit conscious about yourself as well as around you. What is the triggering point, and figure it out and move forward. That would be my answer for that question.
Thank you so much, Keshavi. Miss Selina, I'd like to ask you, what gender-specific challenges, stereotypes, or barriers have you had to overcome during your career?
I think, can hear me, right? I think again here, personally, my story, I think I also relate to Keshavi. My parents founded a school in Kurunagala when I was the first student. They wanted me to grow up in Kurunagala but not have uh, I mean, speak in English, but not have to go to Colombo. They created a school, and I was compared, oh my God, from the day. So Keshavi just wanted to drop that note to say, you're not alone. And, look at where we've come, right? So just to say that. And then, but coming from that kind of background where you were constantly pushed, and my parents were people who really pushed me. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm very privileged in that sense. And I didn't face the challenges that many women face coming into the workforce, just achieving success. Um, because since I was a very young girl, there was always a lot of confidence in that given to believe in yourself and to fight stereotypes, and we were given that prominence. But that is not the case for a lot of women out there, and I think that's the problem. And if I were to sit here and say, I didn't face anything, women can do whatever they want to do, that's not true. Women can't do whatever they want to do. There is huge challenges and boundaries, and that is exactly why I guess like these kinds of panels are needed, because it's important for women who can speak and who have a voice to voice out and say, look, women can't do whatever they have to do. There's so many challenges, from cultural stereotypes when you start as a young girl to right up to daycare, to childcare issues when you progress in life, then to senior care. A woman is seen as the center of the household. A girl is seen as the glue that brings families together. These are all the expectations society has on us. And it is these very expectations that really hold women back. But does that mean that we say no to every kind of role that there is set for us? No, I'm not saying that either. But then how do you balance? Where's the ecosystem that enables you to balance? Where's the support network that enables you to balance? Shanuki mentioned mental well-being. Are there um, are there outlets for women to talk about how they feel? I think these are the challenges that stop women from achieving excellence. Yes, we live in a very patriarchal society. Are we going to be able to change that patriarchal society in our lifetime? No. But we are going to be able to put the foundation necessary for the incoming generations to be able to crush that patriarchy. And I think the very, very real challenges is mental health, access to childcare, centers, um, networking, mentoring. I think these are the very simple things that we can work on to enable that a woman is successful. Women go to university, women are educated. I mean, if you take across the board, you will see women get degrees, but you know what? Getting a degree is also apparently good for your marriage material thing, right? So women will get those degrees, women will get those education, but what they do after that point, I think, is a real challenge. And those 4 areas I mentioned, I think, are very doable, simple things that my generation can start, so that it will enable the incoming generations to really change, so that these questions are not valid anymore, and we don't have to have separate panels for women of change and all of that. So I think, yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking at the moment. Yeah.
Thank you, Selina. I'm going to interrupt the flow a bit. Miss Tilini, is there any incident that you could recall or any challenge that you would like to share with us that you have faced during your working time?
Well, now I have come across this many times. Now, actually, it is not from my working place, because I think my working place is, surrounded by very secured men, and who actually, talking about the vice chancellor, who would give the opportunity to the right person without considering the gender or age or the experience or whatever. So I think that is how I got the opportunity of becoming the dean of the biggest business school in the country when I was, I think when I was 27. But whenever now there are these forums, and okay, when these visitors are coming to NSBM, and then when to the dignitaries, when I'm introduced as the dean of the faculty of business, I would always get that look. Is she? Okay. Can she be a dean? Okay. I mean, 95% of the time I get that look. And then, eventually when we start talking, and when we talk about what we do at the business school, and when you show what you have done, only they believe that, okay, she also can be a dean of a faculty. And, that should not be the case. I think that is drawn my personal experience of having this position and what people think about it. But I think that is a problem of many of the women. They don't believe in you, they don't believe that you can do it. And I think that is a change that we require. But I think when given the opportunities, most of the women out there, they are very capable of performing. And I agree to one of the things that Shanuki was telling initially, taking the evidences from research also, that women in leadership positions, even the research has found, are more capable. Because when you compare these men and women, the empathy, and there are certain other qualities women are better at, which are required for leadership. And for women to do a change, I think we need to get this opportunity of leadership. Otherwise it's really a tough thing to do. I mean, you can do the changes being yourself, you can start it by yourself as an individual, but to have a pressure point, I think it's important the women are getting the due positions and opportunities. When we take a country like Sri Lanka, you take all the multinational companies and the public limited companies of our country, and look at the board of directors, how many percentage of women are there sitting in these boards? Okay, it's less than a 5%, and we being 52% of the population of this country. And is that sufficient? And look at the parliament of our country, how many women leaders are there when compared to the men sitting there? And these are the real issues we have as a country. I think the representation should be there. Otherwise, this oppression of women, that would be forever. And yes, so.
Okay, thank you, Miss Tilini. Moving on to the next question, Shanki, what are your opinions regarding removing the first female DIG from her assigned duties?
Loaded. Hmm. How can I say this without getting myself into trouble? Um, Look, I think legally there were causes because of the way she was assigned that position, or the way she was promoted. But that is not her fault. It is the fault of the police commission, because they didn't look into certain mandatories and certain systematic changes that needed to be done. And so there had to be certain loopholes and stuff through which she was promoted to the position. So that wasn't DIG Bhimshani's fault, but it was the fault of the system that got her there. And that very thing is what they are using against her now and taking her off, that they have taken her off her post with. So I think she's someone, from my engagements with her over the years, she's someone who has done an incredible amount of work towards women's welfare, especially women who undergo abusive relationships, and for women's rights in terms of things like domestic violence, things like intimate partner violence, and looking out for women. She has used whatever position and powers that she had to make that change. And she's done so much that I think all women's welfare organizations were certainly devastated when this happened to her, when 33 male cops decided that, you know, their positions or their potential was threatened by the fact that there was one single woman who was promoted into this post. So I think the way they have looked at it is highly unfair. It is highly patriarchal in the way they have decided to punish her, using these legalities to punish, I guess, in a bigger sense, to punish women in general, to take away the one large support that we had with the police or in law enforcement towards, that was specifically sort of working towards women's issues. So at the same time, I just hope that this upset, this devastation that has happened is also a catalyst for change, because it has created this national conversation around that post, around why is it that more women, there are not enough openings for women in DIG positions, in seniority positions at the police. What are the changes we need to make as a country to ensure that there are more legal positions available, so that there is less competition for women, whereas it's so much easier for the men. I hope that this, whatever this has happened, unfortunate incident that has happened, will change the system, make the NPC sort of move a little faster, and in making those structural changes, so that we don't have to face this again with the DIGs or the female DIGs to come. And I hope this means that there will be more positions opened up for female DIGs without this becoming, you know, 10 steps backwards for the country.
Thank you so much. There's an interesting question coming up next. Keshavi, do you experience resistance when you are leading men, and how do you react to it?
So it's an interesting question, Dilmi. To be honest, I think I find myself a little bit lucky here. I have not faced resistance when I come up with my suggestions and solution in the business. It might be because of the way our organization is as such. Ms. Tilney mentioned about the board. Actually, in ours, out of 9, 5 are women in the board. So more or less, the women empowerment is quite high, and the agenda towards diversity, inclusion, and belongingness is something that the organization is trying quite hard to sort of achieve. It's a journey. It's a behavioral change that we are looking for. Now, the question is whether I have felt resistance. No, but if I face resistance in the future, because you never know, touchwood by far I have not, but you never know about the future. If that happens, one thing that I know for sure is I'll address the elephant in the room. I'll more or less be very assertive about the concern, and I will speak up. that is something that I would do, because I need to play to my strength, and I should be able to understand where the problem is and hold the right person accountable at the right time. That's something that I have learned by far from all the work that I have done. The discrimination, if there's a discrimination just because there's a gender differentiation, then I will for sure address it, and I'll be very assertive on the fact and will raise it at the right level. So that is what I would do. But by far, no, I have not faced any resistance. It might be because the way I work, or it might be because of the ideas that I brought into the table, and of course the empowerment that we have in the organization as well, I feel.
Thank you so much. So let's take a quick break and move on to a bit of entertainment. It has been a very interesting session so far. So let me invite Kaylee Berenger. She's an undergraduate of NSBM and a Voice TV contestant.
Hello. I am so blessed and honored to have been invited to perform in front of these amazing ladies and you guys. It's an absolute honor. And without further ado, I am going to start. I hope I'm audible enough. Am I audible enough?
Yes, sure. Please go ahead, Kelly.
Okay, thank you. I used to bite my tongue and hold my breath, scared to rock the boat and make a mess. So I said quietly, agreed politely. I guess that I forgot I had a choice. I let you push me past the breaking point. I stood for nothing and fell for everything. You held me down, but I got up. Hey! Already brushing off the dust. You hear my voice, you hear that sound, like thunder gonna shake your ground. You held me down, but I got up. Get ready, cause I've had enough. I see it all, I see it now. I got the eye of the tiger, the fighter, dancing through the fire. Cause I am the champion, and you're gonna hear me roar louder, louder than the lion. Cause I am the champion, and you're gonna hear me roar, you're gonna hear me roar. Now I'm floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee. I've earned my stripes. I went from zero to my own hero. You held me down, but I got up. Already brushing off the dust. You hear my voice, hear that sound, like thunder gonna shake your ground. You held me down, but I got up. Hey! Get ready, cause I've had enough. I see it all, see it now. I got the eye of the tiger, the fighter, dancing through the fire. Cause I am the champion. You're gonna hear me roar louder, louder than a lion. Cause I am the champion, and you're gonna hear me roar, roar, roar. You're gonna hear me roar. I hope the music and I were both audible. Were we both audible?
Yes. Thank you, Kelly. We wish you all the best for your future endeavors. It was a brilliant performance.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Okay, I think we can move back onto the questions. Miss Selina?
Yes, I'm here.
How can men support women to achieve their goals in leadership positions despite the gender stereotypes?
Okay. I think first and foremost to how do you say? I mean, it's a very nuanced question, right? Because there's men in your life, there's men in your workplace, there's men on the streets, there's men who make decisions. So I think it's a different kind of men. So I don't know how you answer such a question, but if you, let's start from the streets. So just when you walk to work and when you're taking public transport, maybe if men decide to keep things in their pants, it might be helpful to start with. So I think that's respect, right? Finally, understanding that a woman is also using public transport for her convenience because she needs to use it, and not using that as a platform to kind of abuse and take kind of your own frustrations or needs in that platform, right? So I think it's the respect. So that let's start with that. And then if you go to men in your workplace, I think it's about treating a woman professionally, being able to understand that she's gotten the job for a reason. She's also done her education, she has her experience, she adds value to the team, and she's a professional. So treating them equally and being able to be very professional in their dealings, I think would what is needed in the workplace. And also understanding that, I mean, I get very frustrated sometimes when, women are not allowed to come rise in their careers because, I don't know, they're in a marriageable age, they're in an age to have children, they're in an age to, like I think men play, especially if they're employers, they play a huge role in allowing women in to come into the workplace and also be professional enough to do their job. So I think if you take the very many issues in the workplace, that would cover, the word professional would cover it. And then if you take the men at home, then I think it's also being able to know that a woman has different roles, that she is able to make you a nice meal, but she also needs to go home and she needs to be the decision maker. And that there is a level of understanding that is needed. That they need to pitch in when it matters. She needs to pitch in. It's a 50-50 relationship. I'm talking not just your husband or your even up to your father, your brothers. I mean, I think when you're in a home, you're a team, right? Finally, and that each one's role is valued, and that kind of that value and that value is given to a woman equally. I think that is very important. And then if you take the men sitting on top making the decisions for us women in Sri Lanka, I think it's about understanding that there is a 52% population in this country who require a certain degree of attention. Special, when I say attention, what I mean is there is a need to understand that there is a gendered perspective to every decision that is taken. So even if you take things like, for example, right now of quarantining, about everything, every single thing, I think there's a gendered perspective, and one, if you don't understand that gender's perspective, I think it leaves a room for a lot of women to fall out of kind of the spectrum of care. I mean, if you take, for instance, now with the lockdowns, women are at home. We saw an increase in gender-based violence in homes during these times, in domestic issues of domestic violence. So this is what I mean. Quarantine, yes, is for health reasons. Lockdown is for health reasons, but there is a gendered perspective to it, which if decision makers don't acknowledge, it really leaves women in the wayside. So I think those are like the things that I can say that men need to be aware of to enable a woman to really work and to be in charge of the choices that she makes. Because finally, when I think I wrote this to your team as well, it's when you say a woman is empowered, it's, for me, it's not about her having a job, it's not about her having a house, it's not about her having being able to go shopping or whatever it is, to vote. I mean, it encompasses all of that. It's her being able to say, I am in charge of the choice that I make, whatever it is. I choose to stay at home, I choose to raise children, I choose to have an abortion, I choose to go to work, whatever it is, it's her choice, and that she is empowered to make that choice. So I think the long answer to your question is that, in my opinion.
Okay, but because you brought out the word abortion here, maybe it's out of the topic, but I would like to ask you, what do you think about this whole concept, and do you think it's correct to go ahead with an abortion as a woman? Do you say it's fair for a woman to take such decision, or?
I mean, I think that's a very, again, like you said, it's probably not relevant to this conversation, but absolutely. It's your body, it's your choice. It's up to you. You are the owner of your body. You have to be able to make that choice as a woman. If you are in a relationship, if you are in a partnership, then of course there is a necessity for discussion, maybe, but I think those are all things, arbahira deva, like things in the outskirts. Finally, it's up to a woman. It's your body, it's your choice. I mean, that I'm very, very responsible when I say that.
Okay, thank you so much. And Shanuki, yes, do you think harassment that takes place in the workplace acts as a barrier for a woman to reach the top?
Okay. First of all, I think what I need to do is to define what harassment is, because when you say the word harassment, everybody immediately kind of assumes that we're talking about pinching and groping, right? Or calling somebody names. That is not what harassment is. That is just like one minute element of what harassment is. Harassment is verbal, it's non-verbal, it's physical, it's emotional. And if you look at it like that, there's a spectrum of things that women and men go through in the workplace. But specifically women, because women in the workplace has always been looked at something as that is not a woman's role. A woman's role is traditionally defined as staying in the home, taking care of her loved ones, and raising her children and supporting her husband. So women in the workplace over time socially have been undergoing these emotional pressures. So harassment is also pressure and intimidation that you go through. And if you look at it like that, the kind of, from the point of going into an interview, from the way we harass women socially, the advertisements that we put out saying that if you're fairer and if you're more beautiful, you'll get that job. And if you're not, you probably not stand so much of a chance. The competitiveness about your looks, about the way you dress, that is causing pressure. That is a form of emotional harassment that we as a society put on women when it comes to their role in the workplace. Then in the workplace itself, yes, you get male-dominated workplaces where a woman is dismissed. She's, things that she says, she's objectified, she's demeaned. It happens from the lowest tier to the highest in senior management. We see a lot of very qualified, very capable women who, from the point of middle management, you find the numbers going down. The number of women who are seeking positions in senior management, simply because the company itself, although they have great, gender equality documents their HR have put together, and they have sexual harassment policies in place on paper, unfortunately, the realities are that the company does not provide an ambience or the conditions, the necessary conditions for the woman to feel empowered and confident enough to reach for those roles. And that harassment definitely happens, I think, across the board. Yes, I think a lot of, I think even Tilini also sort of brought this up, that a lot of women use patriarchy to their benefit also in the workspace. So sometimes we women, we harass other women in the office, and we also use those patriarchal ideals of, dressing up for the benefit of getting noticed, for the benefit of using our femininity sometimes to our advantage in the workplace. And that invariably does harass women who don't, conform to those rules or those unspoken norms in the office space, apart from the competitiveness, the nastiness that we can also provide. Then when we say women, I don't think we should look at just cisgender women. You have to talk about women who belong to the LGBT community. They are also women. And then the way that they can be harassed in terms of how they identify themselves, and the fact that they have to sort of lead either a secretive life to be able to get ahead and not be noticed and not be sort of mocked and bullied in the workplace. The harassment that they can go through in their homes, with their intimate relationships, all these kind of constitute of harassment that get in the way of a woman moving ahead in employment of her choice, in a career of her choice, or these expectations, these pressures, this intimidation that we put on them. Senior management, definitely, I mean, there are countless reports of male-dominated senior management sort of using sexuality and objectification to coerce a woman to, she's scared to even tell people that she might be undergoing some sort of sexual harassment in the workplace, because she's risking her job. She's risking being mocked. She's risking being, the subject of gossip in the workplace. And that is an emotional thing that she has to carry with her, that discomfort if she wants to stay in the workplace. And how many opportunities does she have to just go up to it and call a senior manager out, or a colleague out, a male colleague out for their actions. So I think there's a lot of impunity that harassers take, and a lot of immunity that they have, whether it's in the home or in the workplace, that kind of gets in the way of women breaking these barriers. So I do think that to answer your question, if we define harassment in the way that I define harassment, you'll find that everything about a woman's life consists of a lot of harassment that she has to go through, that keeps her from succeeding or reaching her fullest potential.
Okay, thank you for that explanation, Shanuki. Ms. Tilini, there is a question for you from the audience. Let me bring it to you. So it goes as, I have so many goals as a girl or a woman. We have so many responsibilities to do in nearby future. I really like to do business while doing my professional career. How do we manage our time? I saw Miss Tilini manage her family and her career life well. Like she plays with her daughter, teaches her, does her higher studies, lecturing, and so on. How can we manage our time in the busy life? And are there any supportive organizations that helps women to fulfill their goal?
Well, thank you for the question. And I think it's not an easy job, to balance the work and life and all that, because I think firstly, there can be career oriented women, there can be women at home, but it's a personal choice of you. Okay, the fact that I wanted to work, or the fact that one of my friends wanted to stay back and take care of the children, it's a personal choice. And I think we all should respect the choices of the people first. And then for the fact that I have chosen that I should work and I should excel in my career, I think there would be no such supporting organizations, but I need to talk to myself every day. And then I need to organize myself every day because I made a choice and I need to stand by my choice. If I don't stand by my choice, no one else is going to support you. That is the number one. And then when you're balancing your work, your higher education, or your family, your children, your husband, and all the other social things, I think what is most important is you're setting your priorities properly. Okay, you should know what your priorities are, and then you need to work according to your priorities. And I think for a working woman, it's very important that you have some kind of planned and organized schedule for you, so you know what is most important in a day and what you need to fulfill. And because that question talked about my life with my daughter, I think for me, apart from my career and who I am, what has defined me properly as a woman is my daughter. As in, when I gave the birth to my daughter back in 2018, it changed my entire perspective about life. And I'm talking about myself. It can be different women. And raising her has become another important, I mean, a most important task in my life. And by saying that, for me, when it comes to your child or when it comes to any other things that you do, for me, what matters is not the quantity of time I have with her or with any other engagements that I have. I think it's the quality you maintain. Okay, so there can be mothers at home 24 hours with the children, but if they are putting all their time for some other things, to their mobile phones or whatever, I don't think that just staying with your kid would matter. But even if you have 2-3 hours with your child, if you can give that quality time of, you know, molding them to that better people that you want in life, I think that has to be the key. And by saying that also, everybody should know, for a woman to balance all that, it is not easy. It consumes you. Okay, it consumes you. My PhD research is about women empowerment, and I'm working a lot with these women entrepreneurs. And when you hear their stories, you would know, okay, they are working, they are taking care of children, they are, they are cooking, they are cleaning, they are washing. Okay, but at what time they sleep? They sleep at 1 2 in the night, and sometimes they have to get up early by 4 o'clock 5 o'clock. So to balance all that, you should know you need to consume yourself. So you need to, it's very important you strike a balance, otherwise at a point you get exhausted about yourself. So this balancing game and you getting exhausted by it, it's closely linked. So you have to have strike a balance there. And I think for that, it's very important that you have some support also around you, maybe your parents, maybe your husbands. But then again, when we talk about independent women, I think today you should not rely on anyone like that. Also, you need to, it's your choices in life, and you need to take care of all your responsibilities without relying into others. That is also important. And I wanted to add something to a question which was asked by you there previously to Selena. Selena just fantastically answered that question about this support from men to, deal with your work and all that. And I really loved the way that she answered the question, from getting into the public transportation to very internal things. But I wanted to add something there, Dilmi. Now, why we should ask this question, that is also wrong. Okay, why men should allow us? Why men should support us? We all are equal, no? I think when I'm making my career choices, or when I decide what I want to do, and does my husband have to allow me for that? I mean, isn't it unfair? We all are talking about equality here. So there are so many concepts like that, which are taboo and we are not talking. But I think this is the right time that we have to be vocal about it. That's a small addition to that previous question. But thank you.
Miss Silini, I would also like to ask you one more thing. So by being independent, the society says, the society judges woman saying she's independent, and it increases her ego and it gives her a wrong or a bad attitude. What do you like to do? You like to justify that?
I think when you are independent, if you are If you are strong enough, you won't build the ego, but you would cherish the fact that you are independent. Okay. And I don't think that it has to create that ego or different attitude. I think the independence you should give you liberty and freedom to do whatever you think is right for you and which makes you happy in life. And I think, yeah, there can be women, I mean, it's all their decision and choices to have that ego attitude or whatever, but I think it is not the way to go. I mean, your independence should create that liberty and happy place for you. And it's not about showing an attitude to anyone or, being egoistic or being dominating and all that. And when I talk about all these independence and all that, see, when you are in a family, I always believe the right place for the women rather than the equal place. There is a role a mother has to play now. I am the dean of the faculty, and if I go home and if I start playing the role of dean at home, I mean, my home won't be a beautiful place. So you should see that is being an independent woman, that is being a liberal woman, that is being a bold woman. You should know your roles in different places, and then you need to play the role there. And I think that is how it should be. And I don't think, at least for me, I don't think this ego and attitude is relevant. Not for me at all. I can speak on my behalf for that.
Okay, thank you, Miss Silvi. Moving on, Miss Keshavi, how do you admire someone else's success without doubting your own self-worth?
Very
Have you ever
interesting.
doubted your self-worth?
Well, before getting into that question, let me tell a little bit of a story. I love telling stories. My brother was in army. He was 17 years elder to me. So we were not such a rich family. We were a little bit of a poor family back then, and we didn't have a television at home. And at one point, I used to go outside and go to neighbor's house to watch television as a kid when I was 7 years of age. And one day, that auntie in their next house, auntie or uncle, I don't remember exactly who that was, shouted at me for coming. And my mother was quite upset, and she wrote a letter to my brother saying, Nangi had this situation and all of that. And I remember my brother coming to my home with a Panasonic TV, with a 24-inch TV back then in 1994. I was so excited to see it. I was so liberated, and I was so happy, and I couldn't give him a hug and say bye, but I never knew that would be the last time that I would see him. He passed away in the next week. Yeah. And up to date, I regret that moment. For me, when I see someone as a success, that's where I'm coming to. For me, what comes to my mind is about fragility of life, how important life is, rather than worrying about someone else's success and being jealous about it or doubting your self-worth, because life is yours to cherish. And my brother's death when I was 7 years of age changed the whole family. My father had 2 heart attacks and he stopped working. My mother continued to work. She became the sole breadwinner for a longer time. My father only got a pension. My sister got into university somehow. So everything changed. Up to date, we are going through that. So for me, in that whole context where I have been brought up to now, I don't have time to feel self-pity or self-worth, because my life is more important for me. And one thing that I can tell always is that when someone is growing, be genuinely happy for that person. Probably try to learn something from that. Don't Sometimes this self-worth issue or bitterness come because your ego, like, how can someone do better than me? But what you can do is to learn from each other and grow. That's the growth mindset that we should be having in the future, especially as young undergraduates and graduates. Just focus on your strengths and live up to that strength and learn from people who are getting successful, rather than feeling self-pity. I'm not saying that I have never felt self-pity because I'm not enlightened. I'm a human being. I'm not perfect. I might have had situations, but I try my extreme very best to be happy for someone, happy when people grow, and support as much as I can, because of what I had to go through, and the experience that I have had in my life. It shaped me shaped me. My family has shaped me, and that's what I can tell about tell to the answer to that question. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Keshavi. Shanuki, would you like to add to that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, sure. The question is, how do you admire someone else's success without doubting your own self-worth?
You just do. I don't know. I don't think it should be on any of us to compare ourselves to somebody else. And I know that in today's day and age, a lot of us girls are comparing ourselves to what we see on social media out there. We sort of pit ourselves against somebody who, you know, the world considers the ideal. Which I think is rotten rubbish. I think, honestly, maybe because I come from an era where I didn't have social media when I was growing up. So it was much easier to just focus on myself. And yes, there was always competition. Yes, there were always role models and idols that you sort of want to be like, and you work towards that. And that's for your own self-improvement. But it wasn't about saying, you know, she's a better woman than I am, and therefore, you know, this is my flaw and stuff like that. I think we've come to an era where we're just doing that too much to each other. Each of us has a different strength, a different ability, a different uniqueness, and none of us are able to sort of clone ourselves out there, including who you think is an ideal out there. And I think it's specifically for you to do some self-reflection and understand what are your unique strengths, what do you bring to this world that are contributing to the world or to your ecosystem that nobody else can do the way you do, whether it's your family, your own life, whether it's to your community, whether it's in your workplace. There is something, everybody has something that nobody else can imitate or can clone. And when you realize that that's your worth, that's your value as a human being, you focus on that and stop focusing on what everybody else is doing. I don't know. I admire so many women out there. I think they're incredibly badass. And there are women who are like making enormous waves that I wish I could make. But I mean, I'm more than happy to watch them from afar and applaud them. And but still, at the same time, even though I wish I could do that, that doesn't mean that I'm any less. Even though I haven't achieved what they have achieved, I'm still happy with what I've done. So I think it's a lesson in self-worth, and that takes a little bit of reflection and time to understand that we need to stop raising our girls to try to be like somebody else.
Thank you, Shanuki. Ms. Keshavi, there's a question for you from the audience. It says, you mentioned that in your career life, you haven't faced any resistance as a leader from men and as a HR manager. How do you maintain an equal and empowering company culture?
So to be honest, a company culture is not only a responsibility of HR. You know, company culture maintenance is a responsibility of leadership and as an organization overall together. If HR is driving an HR agenda to maintain company culture, if it's after some time it will fail. It should be coming from the top layer and the acceptance of all the types of different personalities available. It's not only about gender, it's about color, it's about religion, it's about race, it's about sexuality and everything. So to be honest, right now what I'm seeing is that a lot of organizations are trying to put forward the agenda on driving this not only gender equality, but in terms of all the types of policies to attract the best talent in the marketplace. Recently, we launched a fertility policy and domestic violence policy to support women in our company. So I think it's something that that doesn't stop at HR. It comes it should come from the leadership, understanding how to attract and retain the talent in an organization to enable them to be at their best by supporting thinking inclusively in all the aspects. As an example, I can say a couple of things that we do to empower that culture. um, we have 6 months maternity leave. As soon as you come after 6 months, you have a daycare center available for female managers to even male managers after their paternity to have the baby from 6 months onwards, and that support is given. And on top of that, career break support to ensure flexibility, flexi hours, anytime you can come to office, anytime you can go to office, and there's no issue as such. We support our employees with unlimited OPD support whenever they are sick and they're troubled. And even the organization may ensuring that the workplace is arranged in such a way so that it's female friendly and male friendly. Not only that, disability friendly. That is something that we are working on. So enabling the culture is not just I just want to say it's not just HR. It's a company agenda. It should be a leadership agenda that we all should take very seriously going forward. Yeah, that would be my answer for that question.
Thank you so much. So this is to the audience. If you all have any questions, you all can direct them towards us. Miss Thilini, your next question would be, what's your favorite part about working at NSBM?
I think the favorite part is the fact that I meet a lot of different people each and every day, in terms of students, in terms of faculty members, in terms of visitors, in terms of dignitaries, and in terms of people from different countries who are representing different universities and cultures. And so of all that, the favorite part is the association I have with students. I think in my faculty there are nearly 6,300 students as of today. And most of the students, whenever they have issues, when they have concerns, considerations, they just happen to connect to me in different ways. Now in these kind of situations, in social media platforms, or when the university is open, they always come see me for things. And uh, by the time, I started my career as a lecturer back in 2011, and now it's been nearly 11 years, and I've made a lot of connections with these students who, after 4 years of time, they become these professionals and they reach to higher places. And then it's amazing to see that progress. And I think me just keeping myself aside as a dean, and when I talk about my true profession of being a teacher, a lecturer, the most favorite part is to see my children, my students progressing in their lives, to see them go leap by leap. And that's amazing. I really love it about my job.
Thank you, Ms. Thilini. And I would also like to ask you, let's say two students come to you regarding a conflict they had. How are you going to solve this? Because one student will say their side of the story and the other student will come up with their side of the story. How are you going to resolve this?
See, not only these conflicts among students, every story in life and world has two sides of the coin.
Yeah.
So I as a mediator, I should listen to the both sides of the coin and both sides of the story, and then I need to make my decision, in the rightful way, thinking of the equality and all that. I think we've been into that places, Dilmi, so many times when you all were in the university. I have tried my best to take the rightful decision most of the time. So I would always listen to both stories, and I would go by the facts and emotions and all that, and I would take the rightful decision but by saying that I would never let the victim to also go down. I would always have this soft corner for the victim or the party who is, being the wrong in the situation, and I would always back them, and then I would like to guide them the right way. And I've been doing it, and I would do it always.
Thank you, Ms. Tilini. Okay, moving on. Ms. Selina, share a women's empowerment moment that inspired you.
Oh, okay. Many. I mean, if I take the last year, I think with the pandemic and COVID, I try to keep my kind of terms very. I mean, I don't think too much in the long term, and I don't look too much into the past because everything's changed. So in the last year, I think it has to be. I mean, my mother is a huge inspiration to what I do and who I am to this date. So last year, when the lockdown came in March, I think, you know, I only been part of the business for about 4.5 years now. And when the lockdown came in March, and we realized that really one of our, like 60% of our business, which is the retail arm of our business, was really collapsing, and we couldn't do any kind of sales, and that meant there was no income. I think just being young and without experience, and the first thing you think of is, okay, I need to protect this vehicle, which is the business that is able to really do everything that we want to do. So even though Celine has been set up as a social enterprise, I mean, at that point when crisis kicked in, my first thing was, okay, we need to protect our capital reserves. How are we going? Cash flows have to be protected. How are we going to keep this business going? And, of course, there were consultants around us, staff around us who said, okay, let's get rid of staff. Let's make things smaller, and all of that. But my mother at that point was a huge inspiration to me and to Celine, being our chairman. And I think that lesson I will continue for the rest of my life. She said, absolutely not. No one goes home and everyone stays in the company. And you have to figure out a way to keep everyone together. So I think it's about that moment and having that fearlessness and that determination to do what's right by the people was hugely inspirational. And I think that is a lesson that I will carry on for the rest of my life, because I think it's important to understand why you're doing something. And in crisis, you forget why. And, you focus on the how and the what, and the, trying to keep things together, trying to keep the ship a sail. But finally, why are you here? And that is, I think, as we head into this very uncertain future as well, that's something that should guide you. So that is a real moment of inspiration for me by a woman who happens to be my mother.
Thank you, Ms. Selina. There's another question from the audience to Ms. Keshavi. What advice can you give to youth to take challenges fearlessly?
So if I answer that question, I will say three things. The first thing is be yourself. Youth nowadays tend to follow things rather than follow being authentic and unique. Authenticity is extremely important in the future. Who you are, what is that unique value that you can bring to the table? What is your point of view? I go to a lot of campus lectures. Half of our undergraduates don't speak up, don't share their point of view. If you don't speak up and share your point of view at this young age, when are you going to do that? How will you change the country? How will you change the society? How will you lead something? So be you, be authentic, bring that authenticity into your leadership. It's the first thing I would request. It's a plea from my end, rather than an advice. Second thing is, understand what's your purpose, why you wake up in the morning, what keeps you going, what's the legacy that you want to keep behind. If you are 8 years of age and you want to look back and think about what have I done, what is it that kept me going. I'm not talking about lot of qualifications, so I'm not talking about your degrees, about any other status. This is about who you are as a person and what is that value system that you want to bring to life. Figure out your purpose, figure out your true north, because in immense amount of chaos, that will help you to guide yourself. Most of our undergraduates are a little bit confused as to what they want to do, which subjects they want to take, which subject they want to follow, which job they want to get into, which profession that they want to get into. They're so confused, so they waste a lot of time in their first year, second years. So for you, I'm telling, figure out who you are and identify your strengths and your weaknesses, and understand yourself and figure out your purpose. Third thing, when you know who you are, and when you want to be unique, and when you know your purpose, it will give you a lot of positive energy. That positive energy will help you to bring your best self every day to whatever you do, whether it is work, whether it's studies, whether it's in your relationship, whether it's in a fun trip, whether it's at sports. Do bring your best self in every day. That means mentally, physically, emotionally, purposefully. Bring all together in a balanced state, and build up your personal mastery. Those are the three things that I want to remind all of you. Be authentic, be yourself, find your purpose, which will help you to it'll be your compass in a tough time in life. Third thing, bring your best self in every day to whatever you do, which will help you to be mentally, physically, purposefully, emotionally at your best. So those are the three things that I would tell to the youth.
There's another question coming in for you. Was it a challenge to get where you are right now in your organization?
uh Well, I think, of course, we all face challenges. We go through a lot of challenges, and I think where I am right now is thanks to the work that I have done, and it's all based on meritocracy. It's not because of anything. The work should speak for you. Your value system, your work ethics, the creativity you bring to life in the work that you do, how you do it, how you connect the organizational requirements to the activities that you run, that will speak for you, and that will of course take you a long way. So for me, yes, it was challenging. Our organization went through many challenges throughout. When the organization is going through challenges, of course we go through challenges. It's not that organization is going through challenges and I'm not going through challenges. Our organization, we had a fire in the factories a couple of years ago. We had many issues in the last 8 years. I guess all these challenges, what would have helped me is to actually knowing what I enjoy doing and finding energy to do that, plus the agility in the sense you change your plans, your ways of working, but not yourself. I'm not talking about that agility in the sense understanding the situation and coming up with creative, innovative ideas. So I guess whether you're a woman or a man or a transgender, doesn't matter which gender you are from, religion or whatever, your work should speak for you. Your work should speak for you. People should like you for who you are, not for anything else, for what you bring in your presence itself, and what the value that you can bring to the table in any situation. That's what matters. So yes, so that would be my answer for your question.
Okay, thank you, Keshari. Shanuki, I would like to ask you, what would you tell young women who are just starting to work? What would you like them to know? More like, what would you want them to know?
If my connection is a little unstable, I might just switch off my video, just telling you in advance.
Okay.
You can hear me, right, for now?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
clear.
Right, so I have had around 16 different roles in my career, different kinds of jobs, different kinds of industries. And I will tell you what I've learned is get into the job that really makes you smile. And that's a big problem that I think in this country that we face as girls and boys, is that we choose careers based on the expectations of our families and the expectations of society. A lot of us in our youth, when we start working nowadays, especially nowadays, and I do a lot of coaching and training with the millennials, which is how I know there's a lot more entitlement that comes with the millennial youth, where they expect a lot more than their worth at the beginning of their jobs, because they're still getting into work without that the experience that they need, simply because you have the degree, or you come from an XXX school or XXX family. You expect your workplace to give more than you are willing to give back. Um, and that leads to a lot of dissatisfaction, demotivation, demoralization, when you are not recognized as quickly as you would like, when you are not validated as much as you expect to be. And I think for anyone getting into a career, the first pitfall is that your ego goes into your job before you go into your job. And I would say that the way to stop that from happening is to stop your expectations of a job to be fulfilling your family, or you fulfilling the needs of your wallet, or to fulfill your social status. The reason you get into a career should be simply because you love that work. And that's a very difficult thing for a lot of people today, because we kind of change our minds and change our likes and dislikes like this. It's no longer the era of where we stick to a job for X number of years and we show loyalty to a company. It's all about what's making me more money now. And what I learned in the long run was, for me specifically, I figured that I had such a low boredom threshold in the workplaces that I was in, simply because I wasn't focusing on the right things. I was focusing on my status. I was focusing on my promotions. I was focusing on what opportunities I got. And it was very little to do with the actual work I was doing. When I felt the most fulfilled was when I absolutely loved the work I was doing, and I couldn't wait to wake up every morning to go into the workplace, irrespective of the fact that I was getting paid a lot less than my previous workplace. I chose a job that I had to take a major pay cut. I took like several steps backwards from the position I was in a previous job, simply because I thought the job was interesting. And that became kind of my success story, and where I actually shot to a lot more success than before, was simply because I was truly passionate about what I was doing. And I think these two words, passion and purpose, are two things that we don't give enough focus to when we first start working, because we're too busy trying to please everybody else's expectations and sort of superficial values that we've built up for ourselves. And invariably, I was actually on a chat with someone privately just now who sent me that very same sort of question of, if you're unhappy in your workplace, what can you do? I'm saying, you have to ask yourself, why are you unhappy? And if you're unhappy, then you're not going to be productive. And if you're not productive, you're not going to reach your potential. You're not going to reach the recognition you need. And you're not going to do what you are built to do or you are born to do. So it's about, again, coming back to that word I used in my previous answer, self-reflection. Figure out your purpose, figure out your love, figure out your strengths, your skills that you can utilize to make that difference in the world. And what are the jobs out there that can use you and your unique strengths? And then you really feel fulfilled whatever you are doing. And it could be even sweeping the streets. If that's something that you love to do, you should do it. And I would say, find work that you enjoy. Don't worry about what everybody else has to say. Find work that you truly enjoy, and then do the best you can at it. Make it the best, make it yours, and you can really carve a niche for yourselves in places that you never thought were possible, instead of trying to compete with the rest of the world.
Thank you, Shanuki. There's another question regarding workplace grievances, and it's directed to Keshavi. So it says, Miss Keshavi, how can we as girls handle a stressing situation at a workplace when we get an aggressive mentor as our executive who sometimes blame for not even doing anything wrong? And how should we communicate a resignation at such a point?
Okay. So one thing that I can, so there are many things. It's depending on the situation. There are many things that you can do. As an example, in our company, if it's aggressive and mental harassment, it's a code of business principles, and that sort of a issue can raise a termination to that particular manager. So it depends from organization to organizations how they have certain policies related to that. So one thing, let's keep policies aside, it's about you, right? One thing that you can do is, if I mean, I don't know exactly what's the context of the problem is, but generally what I can say is, firstly, have a conversation with that manager at the right time. If there's a possibility, ask, is there any feedback, is there anything that you are doing, if you, whether you are not doing right, what you can do differently, what can you do better in terms of getting there. So have a conversation. Sometimes a mere conversation can help you to get better. I have had a conversation like that long time ago with one of my bosses. Was not aggressive, but I felt that I was a little bit rude, and it impacted my mental well-being. And I directly had a conversation with the manager, saying, what is the problem, is there anything that I am doing right or wrong, is there any support that you can provide. And it changed that little conversation, assertiveness that you bring into the table, that little conversation sort of helped me. But I know for a fact, sometimes when you are an intern, when you have just joined, it's tough for you to even have that conversation. Sometimes there's a reluctance that comes to you know, what will happen, will I be judged, and all of that. Another thing that you can probably do is to have a conversation with the respective HR manager confidentially. Ask what you can do. There's a problem like that. You know, usually organizations, HR departments, or can help you and support you in these sort of matters, which they can sort of intervene and see what you can do. But what my thing is, resignation is not always the right choice. If you're unhappy, of course it's a different story, just like Shanuki mentioned before. If you're unhappy in a job, what you do, just don't then. Because if it's not making unhappy. But just imagine, if you leave this place because the mentor is tough, you go to another place and a mentor is tough again, what will you do? Will you leave that place again? That's again resignation. Quitting is not the answer for some time, for things. If you're unhappy, if it doesn't connect your purpose, if they're asking you to do something totally unethical, well, if that makes you unhappy, you can resign. But if because someone is aggressive and not being nice, resignation is not the only option. You know, you never know whether that mentor will leave your company next week, and oh Aparade, you submitted the resignation this week. You know, that has happened to some employees. I'm just telling you. So think about it, because sometimes your line manager is not your choice. It's organizational choice, and you might get those sort of people. One thing that you can do is to learn best managers and bad managers. If you define it that way, you, from both the parties, you learn a lot. So my advice would be, first, have a honest conversation, address the problem if there's a possibility. If there's nothing to lose there, if you're already thinking of resigning, be assertive, have that heart to heart conversation that can change. If not, reach out to HR department, have a conversation, but don't delay that conversation. Don't suffer too much. Don't suffer like 6-7 months and just have that conversation the day before you leave. You know, have that conversation. Look for support, but resignation, think twice whether it connects with your purpose and passion. And if not, resignation is not the best solution for such things. And because you can never predict whether you'll get the same sort of a manager in two other organizations that you're going to go. So that would be my advice to you. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Ms. Keshavi. Okay, we are almost at the end of this amazing and interesting discussion, but we have a few more questions. Ms. Tilini, what made you believe in yourself? Why did you think that you can control or lead a whole faculty on your own, being a woman?
I think first thing is you should know your capabilities and capacities. I mean, not as a woman, no man, but you as an individual, you should know what you can do. And also, you need to always believe in yourself. Maybe you have not tried certain things before, but you should believe that you have that capability of going out there and do it. I think this is an advice for all the girls out here. Now, I think the fact that we believe in ourselves, that has to be given to us when we are kids. I think the home, the parents, your siblings have a lot to do in that regard. I think my mother, from the beginning, I'm the eldest of my family, where I have two brothers younger to me. I've been always given this sense of, you know, belief in myself. My mother and father always believed in me, and they always said, "Look here, you can do it. You just go there, do it." And I'm also coming from a family where, you know, we had our own fair share of economical all these problems. But then again, always, you know, they gave me the confidence that I can do it. So I think we, as you know, mothers or fathers or sisters or brothers, we always give each other that credibility, and you know, we need to cultivate that feeling, okay, you can do it. And from the beginning, when you get that, you know, you just get that vibe of, okay, you can do it, and you can believe in yourself. But unfortunately, not like many girls out there get this, you know, background from homes. I think more than 80% doesn't get it. But then again, it's not the fact. When you come to an age where you understand things, if no one is believing in yourself, you need to start believing in yourself. And I think it's the beauty of it. Okay, at times when no one is believing you can do it, those are the times that you need to believe in yourself, and you have to go out there, you do it, you prove it. And I would like to highlight some point from Keshavi with related to it. Now, the fact that you are capable, and the fact that your work should reflect yourself. Okay, the fact that you are getting an opportunity, the fact that you are getting a very important position in your organization, your work has to always, you know, speak for yourself. And then you are confident about yourself, you can believe in yourself. So when I got this opportunity, yes, I was very young, and I knew, you know, there was a stereotype of a dean that I have seen in my life. And then I thought to myself, are you really going to get this and do it? Aren't you afraid that you are going to fail in doing this? But when I got the news, and when my vice chancellor just informed it to me, I just thought to myself on that night, and then I thought, yes, I'm going to do it. And I thought that I can do it, and I thought that I have a good team, I have a good supporting system. And I thought, even without any of that, I would surely do that. So believe in yourself, girls. That's really, really important.
Thank you, Ms. Tilini. So moving on to the final question. Ms. Arina, what's a leadership lesson that you've learned that's unique to being a female leader?
Go on mute, Selena.
Sorry, this had my video off because Maya wants to be with me. So this is what's unique to being a female leader. We just have to balance a lot of things, and that's okay. That's the way that we have to do what we have to do. So hopefully, you know, by women being able to balance a lot of things and being leaders in various aspects of society, we can make the world a little better for people like her. So that's what I have to add. And I also need to go, if that's okay. This is, if there's no more questions, yeah, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for being a part of the discussion today, Ms. Selena.
No problem. And thank you, and hope that we were able to, you know, answer questions and inspire where needed. And yeah, so I think overall, I think the key lesson is for young girls and women who are starting their careers and in the middle of their lives, whatever it is, and who wants to see something change. It's just, you have to go ahead and do it. And there's a support system around you which will help you. And it's all going to be worth it at the end. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you once again. So as we wrap up this amazing and interesting discussion, I'd like to thank the committee. And this is my first time I'm conducting a session on Zoom. So it has been an amazing first experience. Thank you, Miss Tilini. Thank you, Keshavi. Thank you, Miss Selina. And thank you, Shanuki, for joining in today. So now I would like to invite Senuri to deliver the vote of thanks, and do not leave after the vote of thanks because there's a surprise coming up as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rotaract, to tell me, and we thought of bringing up the surprise before the vote of thanks. And before we end, we have a small surprise from Kelly again. Hi, Kelly.
Hello. I'm right here. Okay, video's on. Last time I believe there are a few technical issues and the sound did not come out as I wanted to, so this time I'm going to try something different, and this is singing without an accompaniment. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope this time my voice comes out more audible than the last time. You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round. You can't find the fighter, but I see it in you, so we're gonna walk it out and move mountains. We're gonna walk it out and move mountains. And oh, rise up, rise like the day, oh, rise up, rise on the Friday, rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. Oh, rise up, high like the waves, oh, rise up, in spite of the ache, oh, rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you. When the silence isn't quiet and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying, but I promise you we'll take the world to its feet and move mountains. We're gonna walk it out and move mountains. And rise up, rise like the day, rise up, rise on the Friday, rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. Oh, rise up, high like the waves, oh, rise up, rise on the Friday, rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you. And all we need is hope. For that we have each other. For that we have each other. We will rise, we will rise, we will rise. Oh, we'll rise. And oh, rise up, rise like the day, oh, rise up. In spite of the ache, I will rise, I will rise, I will rise again. Oh, rise up, rise like the waves, oh rise up, rise unafraid, oh rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times. Oh rise up, rise unafraid, oh rise up, inspired of the echo, rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times. For you, for you, for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly, for that breathtaking performance.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. A very good evening, and it's a great privilege for being able to extend the word of thanks in the signature project of the Professional Development Avenue of Rotaract Club of NSBM. The very presence of our speakers and moderator in today's program, in spite of their extremely busy schedule, is a reflection of the importance that is attached to the commitment of women empowerment. I, on the behalf of the Rotaract Club of NSBM, extend to Ms. Shanaki Dialvis, Ms. Tilini De Silva, Ms. Keshavi Pusvevala, Ms. Selina Pires, a very hearty word of thanks for joining with us today and for helping us inspire young girls. Also, I would like to thank Rotaractor Dilmi Ranavira for moderating the session and making this webinar a success by ensuring smooth flow throughout the webinar. Supriya, mute.
Sorry. We're extremely thankful to Kelly Berenger for her breathtaking performance, which added even more color to this webinar. Thank you very much, Kavindi Abde Sundara and the entire Chocolate Magazine team for coming on board with us and being our media sponsor. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Jinati Chaturya and Ms. Daupade Gamage, MICs of Rotaract Club of NSBM, for always guiding us and supporting us. Also, a special thanks to Rotarian Yukti Gunasekara, Youth Services Director, Rotary Club of Colombo West, for always motivating us and being there for us. I must also mention our deep sense of appreciation for Rotaractors and all the others for joining with us today. And last but not least, our dearest organizing committee. Nothing would have been possible without each one of you. Special thanks to our PR and IT teams led by Rotaractor Abhishek and Rotaractor Janet for organizing a very successful PR campaign within a very short period of time. Once again, thank you all for helping us to make this event a huge success. Let us keep on connecting and inspire change. Signing off, Joint Professional Development Directors Supli Gunardana
and Senari Silva.